Frequency and repeaters and offsets, oh my. No, we're not off to the land of Oz, but jumping into the world of repeaters for the first time can definitely feel like going over the rainbow. We're going to cover a couple of important topics. First, let's break down what repeaters do and how they stack up against simple simplex communications. Then, we'll check out the interesting relationship between repeater channels 23 to 30 and simplex channels 15 to 22. Ready? So, what's a frequency? It's essentially a number that helps us find radio signals. For instance, consider 96.5 kPEL. This means that FM radio station KPEL is broadcasting at a frequency of 96.5 MHz, which actually refers to a whopping 96,500,000 radio wave changes every single second. You find a radio signal by looking through the signals for one that vibrates at the correct rate. Now we can talk about simplex. It is a conversation where you and your friends are chatting on the same frequency. Only one person gets to talk at a time. Each user talks, one at a time. This allows the users to share a single channel. Next, we have duplex. A single duplex conversation uses two channels or frequencies, but it allows you to use a repeater to extend your talk distance. When you're using a repeater, you're always in duplex mode. But just like simplex, only one person can be talking at a time in duplex. Let's look at how to use the repeater on GMRS channel 29. The FCC sets the frequency for each channel, and for channel 29, your radio needs to listen at 462.700 MHz, which is 462,700,000 vibrations every second. Since repeaters use duplex mode, we need a different frequency, a transmit frequency, to go along with the channel 29 receive frequency. For GMRS, there's a standard offset. The offset is simply the adjustment we make to your radio's receive frequency. By FCC GMRS rules, the offset is always 5 MHz. So, should we add or subtract that 5 MHz? For GMRS, again by rule, it's always in a plus direction. The two frequencies, the receiver and the offset transmitter frequency, are called a repeater pair. When you press the push to talk button, PTT, your radio switches from listening on 462.700 MHz to transmitting on 467.700 MHz. When that happens, the other users on channel 29 can't hear you because you're not transmitting on the frequency where they are receiving. Instead, you are transmitting on +5. So, how do you communicate with the other people? That's where the repeater comes into play. There is a big difference between your radio and the repeater. The repeater can transmit and receive at the same time. The repeater picks up what you say through its receiver and then instantly transmits your voice using its transmitter. Here's the kicker. The repeater transmit and receive frequencies are reversed from your radio setup. This is also called upside down. The repeater's receiver listens on 467.700 MHz, but it transmits on 462.700 MHz. So, the repeater receiver tuned into your +5 frequency and it transmits on the frequency where everyone else is listening. If everything is set up right, everyone should hear you loud and clear. A heads up, repeaters often use tones, so make sure to check out more tone information on the LCARE website. Repeaters usually have tall antennas and pump out a lot of watts, a measure of power. If you can get the repeater to pick up your signal, you'll be communicating like a pro using that powerful repeater setup. That's the essentials of programming your radio for repeater use. Once you program a couple of repeaters in your radio, it becomes very easy to do. Now, let's touch on why you can hear the channel 29 repeater on simplex channel 21, but you can't communicate with the repeater users. The FCC requires that channels 23 to 30 use receive frequencies that exactly match the simplex frequencies used on channels 15 to 22. The radio receiver will respond when it gets a signal. For example, both channel 21 and 29 set the radio receiver to 462.700. The radio receiver doesn't know which memory channel tuned the radio receiver. When you're using simplex on channels 15 to 22, your radio doesn't change to the +5 frequency when you transmit. You are not transmitting on the repeater receive frequency, so the repeater can't hear you. Nothing gets repeated. With simplex, you talk and listen on the same frequency. You can hear the repeaters on channels 15 to 22, but you can't communicate back to it for a signal boost. Why do you hear the repeater on the simplex channels? Because the simplex channel 21 and repeater channel 29 both set the radio receiver to the same frequency. That's the way the FCC has defined how GMRS should operate. Thanks for watching, and please click the thumbs up if you like the video. This video was written and produced by Steve Mahler, WRVM 211 and KF5VH.